Yes, hello everyone. We're moving on to the Hunt Maynard Award, which is for the 2020 JR article that has made the most significant impact and contribution to marketing theory. And we've got the winners here. They are Anton Siebert from the University of Reading, Ahir Gopaldas from the Fordham University, US, Andrew Lindridge from Newcastle University, London, and Claudia Simoes from University of Minho, Portugal. Again, a truly international team, and their paper is actually very much about the same topic as we heard about from Kay and Peter, at least from we heard from Catherine from Kay mostly. Customer experience journeys, loyalty loops versus involvement spirals. And actually, interesting enough, on the award committee was also AJ, who's here, Kusum Alawadi, Ashley Humphries, and myself. And of course, we enjoyed reading all finalist papers, but this paper really stood out for us. And it's a paper that's again about customer journeys, like Kay and Peter's, but it's really a paper that really changed our thinking, and that's, I think, a key hallmark of a award-winning paper, that it really makes you think differently about this topic than you did before. And so we're very pleased with these winners. We congratulate them, and we are very interested in the presentation and the commentary by Eileen Fisher. Thanks for joining, and I give the floor to the authors now.
Thanks very much, Harold. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see the first slide? Okay, perfect. So I'm Anton, and in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I'm going to present highlights from our paper. And afterwards, our guest speaker, Eileen Fisher from York University, will take over. Eileen is a former JCR editor, and she has shaped both Ahir's and my thinking in many ways. So it's a great honor for us to have her here today. And we're all excited to be here. So in our research, we focused on the marketing problem of, of how to keep customers returning again and again. Now that's critical for many different brands, from transportation services to pharmacies and group fitness services and dating apps. And we looked at this problem through the lens of customer experience management and especially customer journey design, also inspired by Kay and Peter's seminal paper. And we basically found that there are at least two models that can help brands keep customers returning frequently. Now, these models are the smooth and the sticky model of customer journey design. The smooth model is the dominant model in marketing, and it's all about creating consistent and predictable experiences. And it works well in instrumental services that help people get their jobs done. And that's what Kay, Peter, and many others have described before. Now, in contrast, the sticky journey model is all about creating mad fun, or experiences that are so thrilling that customers yearn to continue their journeys forever. And this model works well in recreational services, such as CrossFit, Pokemon Go, and Tinder, which were our research context. And we collected a lot of qualitative data. We developed the sticky journey model, and we contrasted it with the smooth journey model. Now, to better understand customer journeys, and we've learned that from Kay and Peter, it's useful to create a timeline. In our framework, time moves from the bottom to the top. The initial service cycle describes the first time someone uses a service. Subsequent service cycles are all the following time someone uses a service, and termination trajectories are the last few times someone uses a service. Now, here on the left, you see the smooth journey model, and there's a lot of detail, but I'll walk you through it step by step. Let's focus on the initial service cycle to begin with. For customers, this service cycle is typically a deliberate decision-making process, and it starts with a trigger. Now, back in 2019, when we revised this paper for the second round in JM, we decided to have writing retreats in New York. And I'm based in Europe, So I looked into ways to go to New York. And in my initial consideration set, I had a number of brands, including Lufthansa, British Airways, Apodo.com. I actively evaluated my different options, and I ended up making a highly deliberate initial purchase. I bought a Lufthansa ticket at a convenient time. It was a good price. I downloaded the Lufthansa app. I inserted a lot of my information, and I had a very nice initial consumption experience flying over to New York and back. Now, to facilitate a smooth, deliberate decision-making process, what this model advises brands to do is to provide decision support. And that could be anything from providing content marketing, or in the case of Lufthansa, really good interactive evaluation tools where you can find the best option for you and are able to make the right kind of decision. And again, I had a really nice initial consumption experience, and we realized after a few weeks, one writing retreat wasn't enough. So we wanted to have another one, and I wanted to fly over to New York again. And I entered what marketers call a loyalty loop, which is a cyclical pattern of retrigger, repurchase, and reconsumption experience. Retrigger here obviously was, well, I need to go to New York again. And I used the Lufthansa app straight away. I didn't consider alternative brands. I used the app straight away, purchased my ticket, and flew over using Lufthansa. And what the model advises brands to do is streamlining the customer journey. And that's something that Kay and Peter talk about in their article, and Christian Homburg and others. Streamlining includes simplification of the journey, taking out unnecessary steps, personalizing the journey, and what AJ talked about, the contextualization. So making sure that customers get the right kind of information at the right time. So I want a notification about the gate change when I'm at the airport. And I want a notification about how the weather is going to be in New York a day or two ahead of time. And the Lufthansa app provided all of that and enabled me to make a quick and easy purchase of my ticket, to check in easily, and to find my gate. These loyalty loops, or these smooth journeys, they can come to an end due to loyalty weakening incidents. Flights delayed, the app's not working, have an unfriendly flight attendant. Any of these things can prompt me to switch to another brand where hopefully my experience will be better and my journey will be even more frictionless and seamless and smooth. Okay, that's the smooth journey model. Now the sticky journey model looks very different, and it's based on our research in the three contexts of CrossFit, Pokemon Go, and Tinder. The sticky journey model looks like this. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step or phase by phase. In the initial service cycle, the journey pattern for consumers is a quick spin, not so much a deliberate, lengthy decision-making process, but rather an emotional, spontaneous process in which customers, they've received some kind of enthusiastic reviews. They've seen someone do something that looks fun. Friends or family members have told them about something that they need to check out. So they become curious about it, and they want to try that service. They want to have a direct personal experience. They want to know what it's like. Let's take a look at what Charles says, for example. He's a Tinder user. He says, well, when Tinder first came out, I saw my mates play it, and I thought the idea of it was amazing, in the sense that you literally just swipe, yeah, I think she's hot, or no, not for me. And I was like, all right, let's see what the hype's about. This is definitely a game changer. So for him, not so much a deliberate decision, but rather something like, oh, I want to see what it's like. And we found that what brands do in this initial service cycle is not so much provide decision support, but rather provide rapid entry into the service, remove barriers to entry, enable a free service, ideally, or at least a free trial. So in the case of Tinder, for example, Tinder enables users to use their Facebook accounts to log in, use photos from Facebook, only set 3 preferences. Who do you want to see in terms of distance, gender, and age? These are the only preferences. You set these preferences, you're ready to go, you can swipe You don't need to answer 100 or more compatibility questions or go through lengthy details at the beginning. It gets you right into the app and you can start swiping. Now, once new users in this model have had an exciting, fun initial experience, they tend to get swept up in what we call an involvement spiral, which is a cyclical pattern of challenging and thrilling experiences that create an experiential roller coaster, an unpredictable roller coaster from moment to moment, and prompts increasing experiential involvement over time. Let's take a look at two quotes again. Anna says, on Tinder, for example, you see tall men, small men, fat men, thin men, poor men, rich men, doctors, gardeners, and everything. You really see a big cross-section of society, and that was super exciting. She nicely illustrates the unpredictable nature of these suspenseful experiences that keeps her hooked. The next quote from Enrico is about increasing experiential involvement. Enrico says, the first match you say, hi, how are you? And the conversation goes on. But then you feel greedy and you're nonstop until you reach the second match or third or fourth. And then you start having 5 conversations at the same time. And then you try to select a few that you really think are the good catches. So over time, I became more mature in the use of the app. And that's the effect we saw in our data set. Over time, people became more involved, more invested, more mature. They gained mastery in what they were doing in these services. We also found that brands can facilitate involvement spirals by providing endless variation across the customer journey. And endless variation has at least 3 components. The first one is an expansive service system. So in the case of Tinder, there are literally millions of other users that any one user could be matched with, whom they could date. The second one is an ever-changing service system. Again, in the case of Tinder, new users join the app all the time. Others take breaks, others leave the app. Tinder introduces new features, new ways in which you can check out the profile of other people, in which you can present yourself. So there's this constant flux of service elements. And finally, and we think that's the most important aspect of endless variation, that is that these services, they provide a unique configuration of service elements at each and every service encounter. So every time someone logs on to Tinder, they see a new profile. And they only see one profile at a time, so they got to make a decision, and then they see another profile, but they don't know what that profile is going to be. They don't know who is going to message them. They don't know who they're going to match with on the app. And the way Tinder facilitates that is by using an open algorithm. So it's not an algorithm that's based on a lot of compatibility, answers to compatibility questions that then provides you only with your top 10 most compatible matches, but rather it's an open algorithm only based on these preferences that you set. And so everyone who meets those preferences is shown to you one by one, and people are in your league. So it's pretty open, and it makes for unique experiences whenever you open the app. And that sustains the excitement of using Tinder, of using CrossFit, of using Pokemon Go. However, sticky journeys can also come to an end. In this case, not so much through loyalty weakening incidents. So you can have a really tough and bad CrossFit group fitness workout or a bad Tinder date. That's all part and parcel of the unpredictable journey. But well-being concerns, they prompt customers in our data set to either suddenly or gradually withdraw from the service. And Sophia describes what these well-being concerns are. She says, well, Tinder, it's very addictive. I would spend a lot of time. It was like an addictive game. So in order to stop using it at some point, I just deleted it. So that was her way to deal with the kind of overly consuming nature of Tinder in her life. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the presentation. Just a few big picture words. So in a nutshell, the smooth journey model focuses on making customers' lives easier by helping them get their jobs done. and there's less and less deliberation required by customers over time. In contrast, the sticky journey model focuses on making customers' lives exciting by enabling them to have its never-ending adventures. And that's all I've got to say. Now over to Eileen. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Anton. I'll just share my screen. So, hi, everybody. My name is Eileen Fisher. I'm from the Schulich School of Business at York University. And the first thing I want to do is congratulate this team. This is such a fabulous paper. And I am just so honored to be here to sing its praises, not least because, as Anton mentioned, we go way back, Anton, Ahir, and I, and it's just extremely meaningful to me to be part of your journeys. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to say about this paper, I asked myself this question: why did this paper win the Maynard Award? And one need look no further than the quote from the judges that announces the award. And I'll highlight a few things that they said, and Harold's comments really foreshadow this. It is based on an inductive research approach and persuasive theoretical reasoning. So a mixture of induction and abduction. And it makes a convincing case that sticky purchase journeys often occur after some level of customer experience or engagement, in contrast to smooth journeys. This gives a new perspective on customer experience management, and it is almost certain to inspire a substantial amount of theoretical and empirical research in the years to come. Also, full credit to Anton, who was a PhD student when the paper was published. So that really got me thinking, okay, so stepping back from that, what are some takeaways? Because I think this paper is so fantastic that it's not just a great paper, it's a great paper that can teach us about great papers. So I'm taking this opportunity to reflect on not only this paper, but award-winning papers in general. And I thought about using that by now quite popular journey metaphor, but I think the anatomy metaphor is a perhaps more appropriate one here, and I just had to change it up a little. So here's some thoughts on why this paper won an award and why, in general, award-winning papers do. And I think my comments will resonate really well with Ajay's and with Harold's too. So the first thing, well, what is the heart of a compelling contribution? I think often a compelling contribution problematizes some existing understanding of a really important phenomenon. So it doesn't necessarily say that understanding is very wrong. Often it will contextualize it, put boundary conditions on it, say, you know, it's right as far as it goes, but there's something that's missing. And indeed, that's what we see here with this paper. This paper problematizes the customer experience journey construct as an overly generalized one. It basically points out that it's not a customer experience journey model, it's a smooth journey model. And that smooth journey model is a taken for granted assumption that firms should try to make customers' lives easier by creating consistent and predictable experiences. It problematizes that assumption as not wrong, but overly generalized. And I think that's a general characteristic of really good papers, is that they take an existing understanding and they hold it up for examination and say, we've got to step back from that. It's not quite right. The brains of the contribution, though, has to go beyond saying, this isn't quite right. And it's got to offer something that's convincing, new, and conceptual. And again, this paper does that so well. It coins the term the smooth journey model and develops the alternative sticky journey model that makes customers' lives exciting. So by introducing the sticky journey construct, it gives the reader a real hook. I understand there's a construct here that I want to know more about. And by the way, a nice rhetorical move in this paper is that it also develops the smooth journey construct as the twin of the sticky journey construct. And that's what you just saw Anton present so beautifully. A third anatomical characteristic, and here my anatomy metaphors were really being stretched. My husband's a doctor. I was thinking of phoning him to find out some good metaphors, and then I thought, no, get real. Just go with the spine. The spine, I think, of a paper like this one is the detailed exposition. And I've been thinking a lot about award-winning papers recently, like Susan Fournier's brand relationships paper, or Al Muniz and Tom O'Gwen's brand community paper. These papers have this in common. They don't just coin a construct and reconfigure them. Then they go into great depth so that the reader can know a great deal. And I knew that Anton's presentation was going to give you those two beautiful spiral pictures. So I chose a different table from their paper just to make the point about how extensively detailed the analysis is. Point that I kind of alluded to earlier that I just want to reinforce here. This paper is really based on a mix of induction and abduction. The inductive part you saw when Anton was giving you quotes. The abductive part you see here. They make abstractions on a range of dimensions about these two contrasting models, which deepens the contribution. It really makes you think and understand just why this sticky journey model is such an important complement to the extant smooth journey model. Then there's the connective tissue of a great contribution like this one. What do I mean by connective tissue? Well, in this case, it's linking outwards. Ajay, when he was talking about Kay and Peter's paper, made the point that they have a list of future research that could keep somebody going for a lifetime. And in this paper, because of the deep engagement, not just with the customer journey literature, but with the bigger literature on a host of like mainstream marketing concepts, these authors really open the reader's mind to a host of possibilities about future research that could be done. And at the same time, I want to say they're bulletproofing it. As I was listening to the presentation that Anton just made, I thought I should have also talked about the skin of a good paper. And what I would have meant if I thought to make that slide, it would have been the rhetorical outer shell of the paper, which in this paper was beautiful. Both the images, like the ones that Anton was showing, and the actual rhetoric are simply beautiful. So it looks great from the outside as well as being rich from the inside. And then the last thing I want to point out is the soul of the contribution. And by that, I mean that the conversation matters in the real world. I don't think we find really compelling papers winning awards if they're kind of at the margin of being, yes, that phenomenon is true, but it's not very meaningful. It matters in the real world. And of course, these things don't sell themselves. So you'll see in this paper that it addresses the practical implications in great detail. And again, that I think is part of a great conceptual paper, a great theoretical paper, shows why this theory is important to people who matter in the real world. So with that, I just want to say that we can look at the Siebert, Gopaldas, Lindridge, and Simoes paper as a great contribution in its own right, but it's also a template, I think, for making an outstanding theoretical contribution. Well done, guys. I am so proud of you all.